Aunt Vi let Nova's ass have it. Let's talk about Queen Sugar. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is Queen Sugar Season 4, Episode 3. And the name of this episode is Where My Body Stops or Begins. This was a very heavy episode, and as I said, by the end of this episode, Aunt Vi let Nova have it in the worst way. And I was so here for it because Nova has been doing the most with this book, and yet it's, doing great as far as, the notoriety and the promotion that it's getting, but on the flip side of it, it's destroying the actual roots and where she came from, meaning members of her family. So let me begin. We see that Aunt Vi is really going through it. She's getting together to go to the diner, and you can tell that she's shaken up, and Hollywood's saying, he knows something's up, but she keeps saying that everything's okay, I'm fine. If I say I'm fine, I'm fine. But he was saying that, I know you've been up all night reading that book. So she has read everything, and you can just tell it has literally broken by in the worst way. And she pretty much says, I've been calling that damn girl 3 times, and she's like, yeah, because she afraid to face you. And she says that, look, you gonna put my life out there to the world, and I know she better answer me by sundown, or I'm gonna go out to the damn night ward and I'm gonna find her ass. So Aunt Vi she's pissed, just pissed time angry with Nova at this point, and I don't blame her. And she's like, how could she do this? So they go to open the damn diner. She's asked Hollywood to get something from the back. She's cleaning the counter, and lo and behold, that shrewd ass mean motherfucker Jimmy Dale walks up and was like, it's good to see you again, baby. How you doing? Being real smug and real slick like he was when he was on the road talking to all these women. And then next thing you know, Vi is just overcome with shock that she faints. And afterwards we see that Jimmy Dale helps Hollywood. Hollywood has no idea that's Jimmy Dale at all, or that she passed out. But remember, she does have lupus and she did pass out before. So they thinking it's a health condition. Like, no, she passed out because this evil element from her past just showed up, in her new life. And she just pretty much he says, I'm gonna go get some I'm gonna get some warm towels, and Hollywood tells him thank him for his help and everything. And she pretty much tells Hollywood that I just want to go home. So they pretty much she pretty much takes him home. So pretty much Hollywood takes her home, to get some rest. And later on, more is revealed. Then we see that Micah is in the house reading Nova's book. And Charlie walks in and she sees this. And all of a sudden he comes into the kitchen with his mother, and she asks, we should actually sit down and actually talk about what you're reading in that book. And he says that, look, I know my dad did what he did, but did you really pay Melina Galleon, money to keep her quiet? And she was saying that, look, I did what I had to do at that moment. I was trying to protect you. That was the main reason why I did what I did. As far as the book, yeah, you can see everything in black and white, but things are actually great in real life. And he was saying, is that what you say to kind of cover up what you've done? And she was like, look, you think I like working with the Landrys? I'm working with them so I can know what they're up to, And the thing about it, that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I can get a heads up, so I can protect us, and I can protect the farmers, and I can protect our family. But he was like, he's like, yeah, but you're up here talking about the book, but this book was actually written by somebody I trust. So he's like, so she's like, oh, so you don't trust me now? And he's like, can we just talk about something else? I'm like, Micah, you were really doing the most, because at the end of the day, that's still your mother. And he later on sees in this episode how much Charlie has his back. So then we see that Nova is talking to Deborah, who's who's pretty much I think Deborah, works with the New York Times or whatever. She lets her know that her everything was submitted to the New York Times, or pretty is pretty much the editor. She pretty much says that the New York Times has actually written a love letter in regards to your book, and they're giving her all this praise and notoriety for the book. And we see that it's making her happy professionally, but it's tearing her apart because she's seeing the damage it's doing to her family. Because you literally you pretty much sacrificed your family for this book. And so even though she's having an emotion, she's having a high because her book is actually reaching the people and people are actually being, touched and inspired by it. But yet she's also crushed because it's actually killing the actual family that she came from. So then we got a scene between Ralph Angel and Prosper. Ralph Angel definitely has been broken ever since he read about, Blue in Nova's book. He sits down and talks to Prosper, and he says that, Nova wrote in her book that Blue ain't my kid. And Prosper shares with him that, look, the man I grew up with who I thought was my father wasn't my father either. I didn't find out until I was in high school that he wasn't my father. He was a good man though. He wasn't my father, but he was my daddy. And I was just like, man, that spoke to me, because I can also share that my biological father left my mother when she was 6 months pregnant with me. And the man I call my father is my brother's father. And he's the only father I know. So I feel that scene really touched me, because I'm the same way, that I don't care. That's my father. That's the man who stepped up and loved me unconditionally when my biological father didn't do the job. So that really hit home for me, because for me, I only saw my biological father once in my life when I was 9, and he didn't have 2 words to say to me. And yeah, that's something that that's something that no kid or anyone will ever forget. The fact that your own father couldn't even connect with you. But I have a great relationship, with the man I call my father, and he will always have that title. So that was a really moving scene, and I thought it was great. And he says that, look, you won. That's your son, and no book is gonna change that. And then he gets word that because he's so out of it that it's hard for him to focus on work and everything, and I can understand it. I mean, he's literally shaken up the fact that his sister Nova betrayed him the way she did, and literally told his business. But then he gets word that Ignacio, his worker, is sick. So then we see that Nova is doing like a TV interview, and she's like on a talk show. And then we see that this mother and daughter is saying that, and the lady says that me and my daughter had like the same type of friction that you and Charlie had. And reading your book has actually helped us to start opening up about our issues and begin to unravel some of this pain and hurt that we've been harboring in our lives. And Nova says the same thing, that's the reason why she did the book, was to, get out all of these secrets and all of these past, issues. And now that she's done it, she feels free and she feels that her spirit has been lifted. Yeah. But but the thing about it, the way you went about it was completely wrong, and now your family was literally blindsided by what you did. So yeah, you getting all the fame and all the notoriety for this book, but at the end of the day, this book is not having the results that it should have, because your family should be in your corner supporting you, but all you did was just put your family on blast. So then we see that Charley is trying to get in touch with Frances Boudreaux. She pretty much says, they pretty much tell her, she's not taking calls at this time. You want to leave a message? And she pretty much says that, how is it that I have the same exact shares as her son Jacob Boudreaux, but he's allowed to attend meetings and I can't? Make sure she calls me back very soon. So Charley is starting to see that the damn Boudreaux, is up to some bullshit. And then we see, Hollywood and Vi are back at the house. Vi is literally just, she's literally disheveled, and it's like literally, it's just like it's gotten worse. And Hollywood's like, "What's going on, baby? Like, you won't eat? Like, what's really bothering you? What happened?" Because he's still thinking that it may be her her illness, but she lets him know Jimmy Dale was at the diner. And once he found out, Hollywood hit the roof. He was like, he was at the diner, and she was like, yeah, he was the guy with, the beard and the hat. And he was like, oh, really? You mean to tell me that son of a bitch was in the damn diner, was playing like he was a good Samaritan and shit, and this is why you fainted? Because of his ass? Oh, he was hot. He hit the fucking roof. I was like, Hollywood don't play when it come to Vi. And she's like, but please, baby, don't get upset. Don't get riled up. He was like, nah. He came back after 30 years, and he's looking to get something started. But I'ma finish it. I was like, there you go, Hollywood. I'm like, yeah, get rid of Jimmy Dale's ass, because Jimmy Dale really showed his ass in this episode. And it just goes to show that, yeah, Jimmy Dale is literally there to cause problems. So then, we get a scene with Micah and Kai at school. Micah and Kiki. I'm sorry. What did I call her? Kai. I'm so sorry. Micah and Kiki. Kiki is not giving him any attention because she's pissed at him for the way he acted the last time they was out. And, he finally gets her to the side and they start talking. And she's like, what was up with you the other day? Fighting like some new age thug. Like, what the hell is going on with you, Micah? And she's like, look, I don't date that guy. I'm dating, Michael West. And she says that, look, I don't know what's going on with that anger that you got in you, but you need to channel it another way. And he was saying that, look, I know I'm tripping and I'm sorry. I can't make any promises that I won't make any mistakes, but I'm sorry. You're important to me and I will never disrespect you. So he finally got Kiki, back in his good grace. He finally is back in Kiki's good graces. That's what I meant to say. So then we see that Charley decides to go to the Boudreaux and she meets up with Jacob. And we see that he's talking to this guy, Hank Miller, who's a consultant. He even knows Charley by name, but Charley don't even know who the hell he is. So Charley's already peeping these Boudreaux are on some bullshit. And she's like, what the hell, Jacob? And how the hell does he even know my name? She says that, first of all, you're famous. People know who you are, so a lot of people know your name. And second, he's our business consultant, and his job is to look over all of our partners and everybody that's a part of, Landry Enterprises. So, and he's saying that, so I'm trying to figure out, why is it that you're allowed to be a part of, the meetings on the board, and me and you own the same shares, and I'm not allowed to be a part of it? And how is that even possible? He says that, look, Sam changed the bylaws that the family can actually be a part of the board. So even though I don't have enough shares, I actually can sit at the board and I can actually vote. And she's like, oh, so what the fuck is really going on here? And then all of a sudden she gets a text, and it's from Jacob saying that let's talk outside. He overhears everything, so we need to talk, but I can't talk to you in here. So Jacob and Charlie go outside, and he pretty much tries to tell her that, look, Charlie, I know you mean well, but you need to stop ruffling feathers, because the whole thing you did to stop the prison, that really didn't stop anything. And you know how my family is. They're a freight train, and they will run down anything that's in their path. And then she was like, that's funny, but what about your mother? I thought your mother had my back, and now I can't get her on the phone. What's going on with her? And she says that she's in DC and she's trying to expand Landry Enterprises. And she says, by doing what? He says, I can't say. And she says, oh, okay. So I'm gonna have to work to find this out. But that's no problem. At least I know how to work. And then Jacob got in his feelings. He's like, oh my God, that's what you really think of me, Charlie? Really? And she's looking like, you just think I'm some rich kid with a silver spoon in my mouth? And she's looking like I'm saying the same thing, like, aren't you? But then he was saying that, Charlie, you had a family. You had love, camaraderie, honor. The only way that we so-called got love in our family is that we had to break skin and blood and be happy about it. But that's not me. So he's pretty much kind of seen as the simp of the family. And she says that, look, why don't you just enjoy your dividends? Like, why are you trying to cause so much of a ruckus? And she was like, the same reason why you can just sit back and enjoy your privilege. Like, are you serious? Like, we have choices that we make in our lives, and you chose to go along with the bullshit that your family's doing. And you trying to tell me some sob story about your upbringing doesn't change that. And I'm like, you better go, fucking Charlie. Charlie is my girl. So then we see that Hollywood goes back to the diner. Jimmy Dale is up in there eating and everything. And all of a sudden you see Jimmy Dale trying to make nice to Hollywood. He's like, oh yes, I love this new diner. Everything is great. You must be the manager. And he extends his hand, and I'm like, Hollywood looking like, nigga, don't play games with me. And he says, I know who you are. So you can save the showtime at the Apollo act that you're trying to pull, because I know what's behind it. And so does my wife. And he was like, look, things just didn't work out between me and Violet. And he was like, and he pretty much says that Hollywood Destiny is letting you know right now that you need to bounce. And he was like, excuse me, what you say? He says, yeah, she don't want you around, and neither do I. So you need to raise on up out of here. And then he starts laughing and shit. And, Hollywood's like, hell. Remember Ernest Boat Alone? And all of a sudden that damn laugh stopped. And he was like, yeah, you remember Ernest. So if you don't want part 2 of that ass whooping, I suggest you get your ass up out of here, before I lay hands on you. Think I'm playing. So now we find out that's what happened because he had just told Vi that he just took Jimmy Dale fishing, and he said once he came back, Jimmy Dale just packed his bags and just left, and that was the end of the marriage. What ended up happening is that he took Jimmy Dale out, but he took Jimmy Dale out and he whooped his ass and told him to get the hell out, and that's what Jimmy Dale did. And Jimmy Dale has been away for 30 years, and now he's coming back. But we come to find out in this episode what led him back to town to cause ruckus in Vi's life. So he pretty much lets Jimmy Dale know, pay your tab and get your ass out of town before you catch these hands. And it's not a game. And he says, and then also Jimmy Dale's like, well, I don't stay where I'm not wanted. You know, the border loans was my family too in the past. And even though the past is not now, but the past don't change. And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is really trying it. Like, he is really trying it, like, for real. And I'm just like, okay, somebody gonna have to kill Jimmy Dale, because Jimmy Dale has made it up in his mind he's gonna get his way one way or the other, and there's just no telling what he'll do next. So he goes home and he tells Vi that, look, you know, everything's okay. He's finally left town. And she was saying that, are you sure? Because Jimmy Dale don't back down easily. Like, are you sure he's gone? And she was like, nah, yeah, I saw him get on the Beltway and everything. He's out of town and everything's going to be okay. You know, I followed him to make sure he hit the Beltway. And probably as soon as he saw the way was clear, his ass, but then we come to find out, you know, did he really leave town or not? But I'll just fucking say it. His ass ends up coming back, and let's just say he shows up on Violet's doorstep, but I'm going to get to that. So the motherfucker pulled a stunt, which is why I think Jimmy Dale needs to go. We need to kill this nigga, because he is doing the most. So then we see that Ralph Angel is out eating lunch with Disha at Vi's diner. And they have a really good connection. The chemistry between them is good. He's happy to see her and everything. And he was actually about to come forward and tell her about his past. But she says, oh yeah, I know about your past. I ran your background. And she says that, look, I read your file. But one thing I learned is that people aren't their files. And you're clearly not your file. So, you know, I'm not here to... But she says, but the fact that I have a daughter and all that, yeah, I had to be cautious of who I bring around her. So yeah, I did a background check on you. And obviously you've redeemed yourself, so we're good. So I thought that was like a cute moment that they had. And then we see that Charlie is on her way to meet up with Romero with his fine ass. But she's on the phone with Vicky, and she was saying that, look, I just came from the board meeting and I found out that there's this $1.5 million purchase of land, and they have it on the category for operational expenditures. I have no clue what this is. Could you look into it and let me know what's going on? I'm like, oh, the damn Boudreaux are really pulling some serious moves and shit, you know, and Charlie is now starting to get the wind of it. So that damn Frances Boudreaux is on some other bullshit, because she ain't even talking to Charlie's ass now. So Charlie's on it. But then we see that Charlie and Romero have a picnic. He's had a picnic set up and everything. And you know, Ralph Angel did talk to Charlie earlier because you know, Ignacio was sick, and she said that, you know, he can't go to the hospital because he, you know, he's an immigrant, and he doesn't have any papers. So she decided she sent Romero there to take care of Ignacio, and he says that, yes, your brother's work is going to be fine. You know, your brother's a good man. He actually cares for his workers. And she says that, you know, because I've seen some messed up stuff in St. Joe. And then he mentions 2 workers who died on the land that they were working on, and, you know, that they were forced to work on during the storm. Remember that shit? That happened because of Charlie. And Charlie really feels remorse, but she didn't actually own up and say that happened on our farm and it was my fault. But she didn't know that they were still on the land. She thought that they all made it out, but they got stuck on the land and they literally died, you know, in the hurricane. But then she's saying that, you know, So what do we need to do to prevent situations like that from happening? And he was saying that, look, we need like to set up stations where people can go, you know, in need of emergency, and you know, she was saying that, look, people really need it. And she decides to the former barracks where she used to live at the mill. She says, we can open that up, you know, for people. And she says, we can just clean it up and everything. And, you know, I can fund that and everything's good. So this is her way of making right what she did when those two workers died on the land. But when he finds out that that was on her land, oh, that's going to be an issue between the two of them. And he was like, oh, wow, really? Seriously? You want to do this? You know, I can set up equipment there and everything. You know, we can have people getting checked up and all of that. You know, you really want to do this? You know, this, you know, set up stations for people, not only during hurricanes, but mainly to set up stations for people who because of the fact that they're illegal immigrants and they can't get medical attention, they can actually go to these stations where they can get seen by a doctor and they can, you know, get their vitals checked and all of that. And he's like, and he was like, are you serious? You want to do this? And she was like, I'm very serious. So that was going on. So then we see that Violet is looking through a box of hers with some of her old stuff, like a picture of her when she was younger, and then it's a band, you know, that has her name, her former name, Violet Dale, when, you know, it was an armrest that she got when she was in the hospital. And she pretty much says, you can't hurt me again. So she's had it in her mind that, yeah, she's not going back down that road anymore. Then we get a scene with Micah and Kiki. They're at his house. She goes to get her some water, and he's, you know, got the mail, and he opens a letter, and the letter is a hate letter to Micah, saying that you need to shut your big ass mouth, or we're gonna fill it up with blood and bullets, and put you down like the mutt that you are. And he's so, you know, taken aback by this letter that, you know, it's a letter that's literally threatening him. He gives it to his mother, and she says, I'll fix it. And he's like, just like that? And she says, I'm on it. And she's like, and he just like, yeah. And he kind of like blew it off. And she's like, why doesn't anything I say work for you anymore? And she's like, well, maybe we have different ways that we see the world now, Mom. And Charley literally became Mother of the Year in this situation right here, because she starts pulling up letter after letter. She's like, this letter came after you did the rally. This one showed up 2 days later after you did the rally. And that's the reason why I sent you to Paris for the summer, and I had a private security detail follow you, and you didn't even know that they were there, but they were there to protect you. And he's like, you really did that? And she was like, oh yeah. And here's more letters. This is a letter that came that was dropped off, that came the day I dropped you off at the airport. And then she said that these letters came while you were in Paris, you know. And she said, so now that you see all these letters, how do they make you feel? And he was like, these people want to kill me. It makes me angry. And she says, well, unlike you, I don't have time to be angry. My job is to keep you safe. Paris for 3 months, I did that to keep you safe. So be it. I do what I have to do. So yeah, you may not trust me, but trust me to protect you because it's my job. And then she hugged her son, and I was like, Mother of the Year. So Micah, don't you ever doubt that your mother got your back, because you've been getting hate mail. You just read one out of the many that came prior to that, and she's been shielding it and has been keeping you good. So yeah, you're getting all of this inspiration of understanding your blackness and zero tolerance and all of that, but your mother is making sure that you live to carry out your journey because people want you dead. and she's got your back. So, yeah. So really at the end of the day, y'all don't really see the world differently. Y'all just operate in the world differently. But yeah, she checked the hell out of Micah, and I'm so glad that she did, because now Micah needs to really put it down that, yeah, you can be, expressive and say what you have to say and make your stance, but understand that you got enemies out here who will do any and everything to take away what you're trying to do. So then we get a scene with Ralph Angel, Blue, and Darla. She brings Ralph Angel. Ralph Angel brings Blue to Darla. And he talks about how he hung out with Joie and they had ice cream and he had some chocolate mint and it was so good. And Darla's like, Joie, and she's like, oh, that's a playmate that he met after school. He ain't saying that he's actually dating the mother. And he pretty much goes off to wash up and everything. And he tells Darla, I need to tell you something. Nova wrote about Blue in her book. And she said, what did she write? And then all of a sudden Darla's like, Ralph Angel, what the hell did she write about? And he said that she wrote that I'm not his biological father. And she was like, why did she do this? Does she consider other people's feelings? And he was like, look, that's Nova. She's always does what she wants and when she wants. It's all about Nova. And she says, did she actually put in that book about our past? He was like, I don't know, but when I read about Blue, I just couldn't read any more of it. I'm like, you need to read it, because she does go in about your past as well as Darla's past. And when Darla hits this, that's really going to set her ass back, because now the whole world's going to know her business too. I'm like, Nova is so fucking... Oh, she is such a trifling bitch that she did this. I can't hold back anymore about Nova. Like, Nova was fucked up of how she did this shit. You are literally putting everybody in this book and literally telling all of their business, and you're just on this thing that this book is going to help people, but it's hurting your actual family, Nova. You selfish bitch. Like, seriously. It's helping your career, and yeah, it's helping other people, but it's hurting the family that you came from. And we see that, she's really, like, Darla is really shaken up and everything about it. And she was like, she didn't consider other people's feelings when she did this. I'm like, it's hurting you. And it's going to hurt Blue. And he says that I'm not going to let that happen. And she says that, look, when the time is right, me and you will speak to him together. So I'm like, he's letting it be known that that's still my son. And yeah, we're going to tell him the truth, but it's going to be when the time is right. So then we see, that was the end of that. So then we see that Vi, gets a knock on the door. She thinking it's Hollywood back. She says, oh, wait till you try my chicken pot pie. And she opens the door. It's Jimmy Dale. So Jimmy Dale's ass didn't leave town. He's now on Violet's doorstep. And he's like, wow, so you do still live here. You look good, baby. It's like, why don't you open the door and we can talk out things like adults? And then she was like, you need to leave. He was like, don't turn me away. I'm trying to get on the right track with you, that's all. Sweet cakes. And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is creepy as hell. And I'm like, so she decides to let him in, which I thought was a bad idea. But she was like, he says he's changed, it's the past. I just want to come here to make things right. So he comes in and he's like, I see you made some changes. It still feels like my house, though. And then she was like, so how you doing? And then he gets some basic voice like, Violet, I'm talking to you. And you can see it shook her up. I'm like, oh, this evil bastard. she can see right now that, yeah, he's still the same piece of shit that he's always been. He ain't changed. He's just there to cause hell. And she says, not your house, Jimmy. My house. He says, oh yeah, and where's that boy, that new husband, Hollywood? And she says, Hollywood ain't no boy. And she says, that name Hollywood sounds the name of a boy with stupid dreams. But then he says, and she's like, what are you doing here, Jimmy Dale? And he's like, I'm sorry how we left things and all of that, and I'm just trying to make things right. And she's like, you know what? You need to get out of my house right now. And he's like, really? That's how you're going to be after I came all this way? I'm trying to make it right with you. She's like, you know what? You need to get out my house. There's the door. Use it. And then all of a sudden, Nova shows up. And she was like, Jimmy Dale, what are you doing here? And he was like, oh, Nova. Hey, Nova. Good to see you again. I'm like, what the fuck? So Jimmy Dale is back in town because Nova saw him, and immediately, Nova Envi is like, again? What the hell? And she's like, I can explain. And she says, the fact that you brought this on my doorstep, you ain't got nothing to explain. And then he's still talking and everything, and was like, now, come on now. I came to see how you been over these years, and you still look good, but you got a little pouch, and grabbed her stomach. Oh, damn, Nova was like, get your hands off of her. He's like, don't you touch me. They both ganged up on him and pushed him outside. Then all of a sudden, Hollywood saw that he was there. He's like, oh, you gonna come up to my house, to our house? Are you serious? And he's like, you need to back away, boy. You don't know what you messing with. He whooped Jimmy Dale's ass, and he would have kept beating his ass if I didn't pull Hollywood off of him. So she pretty much whoops his ass and shit, and then he pretty much says that. So then he's saying that you know what? I actually came here to tell you I was sorry for how we left things. But you know what? I ain't sorry at all. I ain't sorry for a damn thing. And yeah, and I see you are what you always were. Ernest's sassy little sister. You were a hot piece of ass. Yeah, and I should have never made you I should have never tried to make you a wife. I'm like, oh, get your mother. Oh, Jimmy Dale gotta go. Jimmy Dale has seriously got to go. And I'm like, Hollywood gonna kill his ass, because Jimmy Dale's doing the most, and I'm so here for it. But I have to say, David Alan Grier is doing a phenomenal job playing this role, though, because he is a good actor. But yeah, Jimmy Dale gotta go, because he's doing the most. And then we see that Nova was like, I never meant for this to happen. And then Hollywood was like, yeah, you never do. So they know that Nova is always doing some, mischievous type of shit that always comes back in a bad way. Even though her intentions are good, her execution is always bad. Because your execution was really fucked up when it came down to this. And then she said, I did go to meet Jimmy Dale to talk about the book. But once I sat down and met with him, I realized he was the same piece of trash that you said that he was. So I left his part out. I just wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, and maybe that this could heal things. I just wanted to celebrate your triumph. All of you been through. I just didn't want to tell half of the story. But my intention wasn't to hurt anyone. Yes, your intentions, but your outcome, you've hurt a lot of people with this book, Nova. The people that bred and loved you and grew up with you and who raised you. Those are the people you hurt. And then this is when Aunt Vi goes in. She is like, you have done some things in your day, child. But this, your daddy would be ashamed. And I completely agree. He drove Jimmy Dale's ass out of town for a reason, and your ass going back to ignite that situation, and now he's back bothering Vi again? Oh, hell yeah. Your daddy would be ashamed of your ass. So she was telling some right shit. And then she says that, you know, your mama would do what I'm about to do to you right now. You need to leave now. And she's like, stop it. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to talk to you. Not now, not tomorrow. Hell, the way I'm feeling, it may be 10 years. Don't knock on my door. Don't put flowers on my grave. I don't need you disturbing any more of my peace. And this is the last time you will step foot in this house. Nova Bordelon. And you literally see Nova literally breaks the fuck down walking out of that house. I'm like, bitch, you did it to yourself. You have done this to yourself because you have literally wrote this book and you did not give a damn about the repercussions of it. You were just thinking that, oh, this book is going to help a lot of people, but it's not helping the people that need it as well, which is your family. You're hurting your family at the expense of your popularity and your fame and, you know, your breakthrough. So I'm like, Nova, you literally done made a deal with the devil, honey. And it's going to be interesting to see if she can come back from this, because Ralph Angel done told you off, Charlie done told you off, and now Vi told you off. So she really ain't got no more family. She's literally by herself now. And we're going to see how this is going to pan out. But that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But yes, this was a damn good episode. And next week, we see somebody digging a grave. I hope Jimmy Dale's in it. Just saying. So, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of Queen Sugar. So until next time, everybody, take care.